Hey, my name is Nathan Hirsch, a serial entrepreneur and the CEO of Outsource School. Catch me this week on the Jesse T Show.
Nathan Hirsch, welcome to the Jesse T Show, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Dude, it's been a long time coming. We feel like we've been connecting since last year, right?
I went, like we were talking about before, I just moved to Denver. So all my podcasts got pushed back into the new year, but I'm here, I'm back, and it's good to be back on the podcast circuit, I guess.
Mighty and powerful, man. So for the few people that haven't heard your name or know your work, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I've never had a real job. I've been an entrepreneur since I was a 20-year-old in college. I started off buying and selling textbooks out of my college dorm room. Actually got a cease and desist letter from my college telling me to knock it off, to stop competing with them. And that led me down the path to selling other things besides books on Amazon. So I had to be one of the first 1,000 or so Amazon sellers out there. I was scaling this Amazon business, drop shipping from other manufacturers in the US. And I had to hire people to grow this business. So I tried hiring college kids. They were super unreliable. And that led me down the path to virtual assistants and hired my first VA, my second VA, made some good hires, some bad hires, but really saw an opportunity that, hey, if I could master hiring, I'd be able to scale this business. So I set out to build the perfect hiring process. And when I did that, I not only sold over $25 million on Amazon, but I started another company called FreeUp that we scaled to 8 figures in 4 years with no office, no US employees, just me and a team of virtual assistants in the Philippines. And that company was acquired at the end of 2019. So my expertise is in hiring and scaling with remote virtual assistants. Now I run a company called Outsource School, which teaches people our systems, our processes, so they don't have to go through the years of hiring mistakes that I went through to hire a good team. And we also invest in different companies separate from Outsource School, helping startups grow. So that's the short version of baby books to baby products on Amazon to FreeUp to Outsource School.
Brother, I love it. And thank you for the context. I mean, there's so much that we're going to dive into there. And the first thing I want to talk about is the entrepreneurial journey, because it's different for everyone, but the main thing is getting started. And so I could say, just to share a little bit of context, because this is our first conversation. For me, I grew up in Boston and I grew up with no money. And so being inventive or figuring out how to bring in money was kind of the narrative. And so growing up, it was, Gary Vee made it famous, but I was buying, selling, trading baseball cards, comic books, shoveling snow for money. We used to go to the Logan Airport, and we would be running through the terminals. There's these little things called smart carts, and they help people carry their luggage. And when you return them to the stall, you get a quarterback. And so we figured this out somewhere along the lines, and we would go on like a weekend, go make $5 or $10 running through the airport for a couple hours. And the best part was getting chased by security, which was really cool. So there was this element of fun and mischief. And, I've transitioned through, growing up in Boston, it was very, very tough. And there was a lot of drugs and drug dealers. And, I fell into that crowd a little bit where I started actually selling drugs and doing drugs. So like this entrepreneurial path was kind of innately built in me, but I didn't have any guardrails to keep me on the road. And so as I grew and went through the military and kind of got some perspective and met some amazing people, I really channeled in all this energy to be able to focus on building a company. And now I'm, 4 companies in, 2 of them we'll call them learning lessons, and 2 of them were successful. And I just want to hear more about your journey and the context of what started you, because sales isn't easy. And part of my journey was outside sales, door-to-door, cold call, commission, selling coupons, basically. So I understand the hustle is all I'm trying to say. So tell me about your hustle and where that came from.
Yeah. So growing up, my parents were both teachers. So we weren't poor, we weren't rich, we we're kind of middle class, but my dad taught at the high school next to us. So I grew up in East Longmeadow. Because he taught at the Longmeadow High School, which is a much better school system, I got to go to that school system. Well, everyone in the town of Longmeadow, their parents are doctors, lawyers, dentists, business owners. So all my friends growing up had everything. And right. It was never more evident than during summer, winter vacations. I was working. I say I never had a real job, like a corporate job after college, but I had lots of side gigs. I was umpiring I worked for errand sales and leads. I got some internships. I negotiated my pay. So I was making like $12 an hour, which was unheard of for a kid back then. So I had to hustle early because I had to pay for every little thing. If my friends had a video game and I wanted the same video game, I had to pay for it. My parents weren't going to buy it for me like theirs were. So I think that's where the hustle came from. But throughout all these jobs and working for different bosses, I also just realized how much I hated having a 9 to 5, hated having someone telling me what to do. And I kind of got a glimpse of what life was like after college. And I wanted no part of it. So when I got to school, I went to Quinnipiac University in Connecticut, I started hustling right away. And I knew I wanted to start my own business because I knew if I didn't, my parents weren't going to let me live at home. My parents are great. They're super supportive, but they made it very clear, like I have to get a job after college and move out. And so I started hustling and really looked at it as, hey, this is my way out. I have 4 years to start a company, or I'm going to go into the real world and get a job. And I ended up turning down a bunch of job offers when I continued running my Amazon business after college. But I think all that hustle, if you go really deep in it, came down to just being around friends who always had more than me and always wanting more.
I understand that completely, man. I mean, I always had this positive outlook, but I did operate in a place of scarcity when I was a kid, just because of the dynamic of our financial situation. And, there's times we went, you talk about Connecticut, there's times we went without heat in the winter in Boston. And that's scary, and it's, when you're breathing, you can see your breath as you're breathing in your house. You're like, okay, something's got to change. And so for me, the entrepreneurial bug was kind of teased out, but also I started working when I was 14, and kind of like, much like yourself, I didn't have like I was just doing summer jobs and I started interning and all this different stuff. But, we start to adapt, and that's what I'm hearing in your journey where, you weren't necessarily, in line with the kids that you grew up with their vacations and the things you had to do while they were on vacation. But brother, it's, from what I can tell from a mile away, it's completely put you in the position you're in now.
Yeah, I mean, I also think there's a certain element that if you grow up maybe without money or with less money than the people around you, you become very money focused early on. I know I was like that as an entrepreneur. And I think as I've gotten a little older, it's not all about the money. It's not all about the stuff. But I think there's a certain element that you have to get over that early on, and having a little success early on helps with that as well. But yeah, I mean, I think you always want what you don't have. And I think that if you grow up in a family that is rich or entitled or whatever words you want to use, I think sometimes you might lack that drive, where someone like you and me, like you have that drive deep in, because you're always just want whatever it is that you don't have or that you see that other people have.
It's funny. I was just talking with John Lee Dumas on the previous podcast before you jumped on, and we were talking about what I call happy wealth. And happy wealth is exactly what it means, being wealthy happily. There's a lot of people that have money that are not happy. There's a lot of people that would trade all of their fortune for health if they're unhealthy, right? And so having that perspective, that's another thing we dove deep on, was perspective of realizing gratitude and knowing where you came from. And money is a tool. Money is not everything. Money is a tool that allows you to do the things that you want to do and support the things you want to support. And so it is important as an entrepreneur, for your business, for the people that you're taking care of, for your family, for your clients, whatever it is, to be in business and make money. But the money is not the happiness. The happiness is the journey. The happiness is the results. The happiness is the things you're able to do. And I love that perspective because, most people kind of have it twisted. They think if they make the money, they're going to be happy. They think if they get the car, if they get the house, they get the guy or the girl. And that's never the case. It's like Gary Vee says, it's the journey, number one, that's the reward, but it's also being grateful and happy along the way. So I love how you put that, brother.
Yeah. And I mean, I've had an unbelievable amount of fun throughout this journey. I mean, I've worked with my business partner, Connor. We met in college. We're in the same frat together. We lived together in Florida. We're now in the same place in Denver. Lots of adventures along the way, good and bad. And you kind of learn from those as well. But one of the things that I'm a big proponent of is figuring out what your ideal day looks like. And I mean, I try to have my ideal day every single day, from the time I wake up to me working out in the afternoon, to spending time with my family, my dogs, my friends, although you're doing less of that during COVID, right. Whether it's traveling, again, pre-COVID, but just figuring out like, what does your ideal lifestyle look like? And your business should be a tool to achieve that lifestyle. And I think a lot of people do that completely backwards. And I'm guilty of that too. I mean, early on when I was starting the Amazon business or starting FreeUp, I was working 12 hours a day. I was doing podcasts at 8 p.m. at night. I was taking phone calls on weekends. But that wasn't my ideal day. And now I'm kind of at a point in my entrepreneurial career where it's like, hey, I'm not doing podcasts outside 9 to 5. Weekends are for my fiance and for my family, and really figuring out what you want to be doing and making sure that whatever business you start, whatever adventures you're part of, actually allow you to do that, or else what's the point?
The double-edged sword of entrepreneurship is freedom, right? It's the freedom that you want to build into your life to live the life that you want to live, do things you want to do. But then there's also the freedom. So if you feel like fucking off one day and not getting into something, like, you got to be disciplined, right? And so talk a little bit about your journey into entrepreneurship. I mean, talk a little bit about the books and the selling, and that's kind of a rebel thing. And that completely aligns with how I operate. I'm a rebel wealth manager. I'm just different than the masses on purpose. And it's served me very well. And a lot of your entrepreneurial journey started in sales. And it was selling books, and it was kind of fighting against the school system to be in business. And those things mean so much, because everything in life, if you think about it, whether it's an idea, whether it's a product, a service, it's a sale. You're not that you have to be salesy or slimy. There's some dirt balls out there, but just being excited about something and conveying an idea, that's a sale, right? So talk about that journey, what you learned from there, and how you pivoted into the Amazon business.
Yeah. So a quick background. I'm not a car person. I think cars are a terrible investment. I'll never spend money on nice cars. And the reason why I'm saying that is the internship that I had the longest was at Firestone. I worked at Firestone, the tires, the mechanics, and I was a sales intern. And so I had to sell people the services for their car, knowing absolutely nothing about cars. And on top of that, they had a whole credit card thing. You had to try to get people to enroll in the Firestone credit card.
Yes.
Well, I bombed for the first 6 months, to the point where I thought I was going to lose my internship. But that was one of the best experiences, because not only did I bomb, but I didn't give up. Like, I was still the first person to grab the ticket and walk up to the customer and try to sell it. And I wouldn't sell it. And I'd go back with my head down, and over and over and over and over, until finally I figured it out. And I became one of the best sales interns, the top sales interns that year in both the services and the credit card. And I think that experience made everything else easier, because if I could sell car services, then I could sell textbooks when I'm in college and I actually know about textbooks and understand them. I knew how to position myself on podcasts with FreeUp and stuff like that. Amazon, you didn't need to do selling on the front end, because Amazon gets you the customers, but I had to build a relationship with all the manufacturers and suppliers, and I was cold calling them, emailing them, and it all came back to that Firestone experience. And I agree. I mean, so many people struggle at business just because they can't do sales, and they're so focused on all the other stuff, when sales is the number one thing. And I think any kid, and I know if I have kids, when I have kids, that's going to be one experience that I want them to have, is you have to be able to get sales, and it's not easy. And if you figure it out, everything else becomes easier. Just like hiring. If you learn how to hire, everything else becomes easier in business.
Sales is the lifeblood of any business, no matter what. And there's all this, political competition, inner workings in a lot of corporations, like whose department's more important. But, it's not really to do that as much as it is to, without a sale, there's no revenue. Without any revenue, there's no business. And so it is very important to sell, not to take away from marketing or advertising or compliance, any of that stuff. But it's super important. And just what you echoed was beautiful, was repetition. And it was the never give up. It was the let me be excited, because sales when you're younger is all about attitude. It's all about not giving up. It's about, grinding. It's about, earning your stripes, so to speak, so you can get those repetitions, which is the mother of all learning, and getting back out in front of your client and falling on your face and going back to the drawing board. Where did I say this? How could I say this differently? How could I be prepared for this differently? And brother, I could tell you, for me, my experience in sales completely put me to where I'm at today. I'm very thankful for it. And it was not glamorous. It wasn't sexy. It was outside sales, cold call, door-to-door commission. And it was the best thing I ever did. It was the coolest thing. It was fun. It was weird. There was a bunch of young professionals in their 20s getting after it, And I think that when you get out there, whether you're inside of a dealership or if you're on a phone or you're in person B2B, those reps, those 100 people a day, those micro moments where you can feel a voice intonation, you can hear something, you can be there. And I think just being in the trenches, especially with sales, is what makes great salespeople.
Yeah, I would agree. And I also struggle so hard when I'm talking to entrepreneurs. And like I said, they're doing all the other stuff, but they're not, it's like, go out there, prove your concept, or even if the concept doesn't work, use those sales calls to tweak and tweak. I mean, when we started FreeUp, which is a marketplace for VAs and freelancers, the first thing I heard was, oh, great, like another freelance platform. Like that's what the world needs right now. But through actually talking to people and understanding what their pain points were, we were able to come up with a really good pitch. We were like, hey, we've dealt with the other platforms before. They took too long. We pre-vet people before we let them on. We matched them up quickly. We have great support in case anything goes wrong. We have a no turnover guarantee. If someone quits, we cover replacement costs. And creating a 30-second pitch around those 4 points allowed us to scale from a $5,000 investment to doing over $12 million a year. But we got to that point pitching it because for the first 6 months of FreeUp, I talked to every single potential customer, failed over and over and over again, continued to tweak and tweak and tweak the pitch until finally it hit home. And only then did we move forward. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs that they're not willing to do that. And they're not trying to get their minimum viable product out there, which is a big thing that I'm a proponent of. And they're just so focused on making their product better and better and better, and not focused on, hey, let's actually talk to my customers and see if they'll actually buy it.
Talk about the idea of a minimum viable product, please.
Yeah, I mean, I've started 3 businesses now with $5,000 or less. I'm not 100% sure why that's the number, but it seems to work. And so with the Amazon business, I mean, we started off with textbooks. That was trial and error. We bought one person's textbooks. We turned that 25 into 50. We turned
arbitrage kind of deal.
Exactly. Amazon, very similar. With FreeUp, we built this really crummy software that did very little. It recorded the virtual assistant's time, and that was really it. Everything else was very manual, but we just took it to market and we said, hey, like, we have great VAs. People liked our service. They understood our pitch. They hated our software, but we eventually used those initial sales to reinvest in the software and make it better and better and better before eventually getting to the point where it could be acquired. And even today with Outsource School, I mean, just because you sell a business doesn't mean every idea you come up with going forward is going to be a good one, right? So instead of spending 8 months working on Outsource School and then launching it, we spent 30 to 60 days building what we call cracking the VA code. And we took it to market. And Connor, my business partner, and I had the same mentality. If people hate it, we're just going to refund everyone and move on to something else. Cause like, that's just how you run business. But luckily people liked it. And then we took the initial money, we reinvested it and built it to now where it is a full grown membership site with 600 plus members. So just getting your ideas out there, getting your software out there, getting your service, your product, whatever it is, as quick as humanly possible, and using those initial customers to test and make tweaks. To me, that's a very important part of business that people look over.
So just like anything else, right? And I see Tools of the Titans back there, Tim Ferriss, and he's really great at moving quickly, and he's all about quality of life though. At the same time, he's really, I think he's a genius when it comes to learning a new skill. Like he's learned Brazilian jiu-jitsu in a short amount of time at a pretty decent level. He's learned how to surf at a pretty decent level pretty quickly. And it's his paradigm and his operating system that he puts on stuff. It helps him learn pretty quickly. And at the same time, he can iterate and he can evolve as he goes. And it sounds like that minimum viable product, what that does is it gets you to market. And then you can change and you can update and you can get market research and feedback and maybe alter things that will help more people. Is that fair to say from your experience?
Yeah. I mean, listening to customer feedback is key. I mean, whenever I went to conferences or talked to people on the phone, I always wanted their brutal, honest opinion. And not everything you can change and fix instantly, but you at least get a good amount of information that you can use going forward. And off of Tim Ferriss, one thing that's kind of been good for me, at least, I tend to not be the kind of person who can do something for like 8 hours a day straight. That's just not how I work. But I will take anything that I want to do and just incorporate it into my routine for a small period of time, my daily routine. So with FreeUp, we were doing outreach. So I would wake up every day to 3 bloggers to reach out to, 3 podcasts to reach out to, 3 Facebook group owners to reach out to. And that would take me 5 to 15 minutes every single morning. My VA would do all the research, which we teach you how to do at Outsource School. But just that consistency. And then you look back at the end of the year, you've done a ton of outreach. You've connected with lots of people. You've been on lots of podcasts. And same thing in my personal life. When my fiance is Vietnamese, I spent 15 minutes a day learning Vietnamese. So I'm a big proponent of working out. I work out an hour a day. It's in my schedule every day, 5-6 days a week. So for me, it's less about like hustle all out until you get it and more about, hey, I want to become good at X. Let's figure out how do I put that in my routine every single day.
Hustle porn isn't as sexy as it's made out to be, like the whole work until your eyes bleed and like no time. And what's funny is I used to follow Gary Vee a little bit, and Gary Vee's great for what he does. And he's got a great life that he's built. And his initial thing was like basically hustle until your eyes bleed. But over the years, if you listen to him, he's really talking more about like getting enough rest that's good for you and focusing on things that fill your bucket outside of business. So it's funny how his tunes changed a little bit. It's funny with Gary Vee. He says time and time again, once you hear enough of my stuff, I'm going to say the same thing over and over again. You're going to eventually stop listening to me. Like, it was beautiful because that happened to me. I was like the last video I really paid attention to on like the Daily V or whatever it used to be, like the stuff that he has going on. I was like, you know what, Gary, you've said it. I get it. It's time to move on. So focusing on the things that make you happy, whether it's your, soon to be wife, whether it's business, whether it's, this is a space I want to talk about. I'm huge into is biohacking. Right. And so whether that's augmenting and facilitating growth with your body, with your spirit, whatever it is, and your health and wellness. Talk a little bit about that journey. Cause I know as entrepreneurs, as business people, most people that I know that operate at a high level, they take care of their body, self-care, whatever that looks like for them. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So this is kind of my diet biohacking strategy. So I work out 1 hour a day, very intense workouts, a lot of cardio, not heavy weights. I found that heavy weights just end up destroying your body over time. So a lot of fluid motions, circuit training, stuff like that. Yeah. In terms of eating, I eat 95% vegetarian, almost no red meat, chicken here and there. I eat fish, and then a lot of diversity. So I'm not necessarily counting my calories. I'm not trying to eat X amount of food, but I'm trying to eat lots of different food all over the place. Off of that, I pretty much don't eat fast. I don't eat fast food. I don't drink soda. So that's pretty much my health diet. I definitely don't go too far into biohacking past that, but it works for me. I mean, that I also include meditation. I read every day. I think that's good for the mind. Yes. And obviously everything that you do in business, but I wouldn't say I'm off the wall in terms of diet, but I think my overall mentality of eating is relatively healthy.
That's one of the best workouts you could do is less reps with bad food and more reps with good food, and getting really specific because food is medicine. And I've learned this, and I've talked to people about this on the podcast, different people that are experts. And, I'm big into intermittent fasting. I'm big into cold therapy. I'm big into, spiritual work with plant medicines. And I'm big into like all these things that help to live a better life, but it's all in the vein of showing up better for myself and showing up better for the world. And also enjoying it, right? Like when you're healthy, you can get around and play on the floor with your kids. You don't have to worry about getting out of breath. And, it's still awesome that my son, he's 6 and I have a 4-year-old, but the 6-year-old loves to run and I love to run. And I picked up running a couple of years ago. So we have that in common. And if I wasn't into, it's 80-20 for me, right? I'm not, I like some junk food. I like having a cocktail, but like the most part is like focused on the good stuff. And I can only imagine some of the things that you notice in your day-to-day business on being healthy. So now you've gone through some iterations. You've gone through the independent book sales to the Amazon to Free Up. What was that transition from Free Up? Is that the main hustle now? Or are you doing something on top of that?
No, so Free Up was acquired at the end of 2019. So, okay. I mean, that was my big accomplishment, right? Sold a company.
Congrats.
But yeah, I mean, right now I'm working on Outsource School, which is our membership site where we teach people our systems, our processes. And we're also starting what we call HG Ventures, where we invest in different startups with either our resources, cash, time, whatever it is, come in as a strategic partner and help them scale and grow to the next level using virtual assistants, remote teams, stuff that's kind of in line to our core competency. We also have a software called Simply SOP, which we think is one of the easiest tools out there to create and share processes with your remote team. So right now, those are the 3 things that we're focused on.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let's talk a little bit about exiting and scaling. And so, there's thought leadership out there that says any business you build, you should build it with the potential to sell it. And whether you decide to keep it and die in the chair, so to speak, or you turn around and sell it and you get an exit, 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure, whatever it is. It's important for people to have that mentality, because a lot of entrepreneurs are living the E-Myth. Have you read this book before?
Yeah.
So basically they get caught in their own business. They own a job. They're not doing the things that like we talk about, which is having freedom of time and freedom of choice. And a lot of that comes from how you build a company. So when did you decide in your entrepreneurial journey that you were going to build Free Up to scale/sell? And then how did you get into those conversations, whether it was angel investors, whether it was a company, like whatever it was, all that, how did that all work?
Yeah, so we've never taken investments or funding. Like I said, we've started 3 companies now with $5,000 or less. That's kind of our go-to, and we build them very lean with virtual teams, no office, no overhead. Free Up, what we did build to be sellable in the sense that systems and processes and good teams. And I mean, we love Free Up. We love the team there. I mean, like parting ways with that team, it was definitely one of the harder parts of it. And we didn't go into 2019 saying, hey, we need to unload this thing by the end of the year. Actually, one of our clients, the Hoth, reached out to us, and they've acquired a bunch of other companies. And they said, hey, we want to get into the VA freelancer space. We don't want to start it ourselves. Would you guys be interested in being acquired? And those conversations kind of progressed. And we were kind of at the point where we had grown it from that $5,000 investment to $1 million, to $5 million, to $9 million, to $12 million by year 4. We're in uncharted territories, right? We've never scaled a business to 20, 25 million. We know as entrepreneurs that certain things we're going to have to change. They're going to have to be drastic changes. And there are also a lot of people counting on us. I mean, from the team to the clients to the freelancers to make the right decisions in an area that we weren't, that we had no experience in. There's other factors as well. You have to remember this is 2019. The economy was at an all-time high. We didn't know coronavirus was on the horizon, but we saw that, hey, maybe the economy won't just go up for the next 10 years. At some point, it might make sense to make a move while things are going great. And there were other factors as well, but we ended up making that decision. And I mean, looking back, I think my lifestyle in general has just changed. We're enjoying kind of working on new projects for 4 years. There's Free Up 24 hours a day. And the first 2 years of that, I probably was hustling 8 to 12 hours a day. So getting a change of pace was good, and it all worked out well. But it was a stressful 6 months while we were going through it.
And how was the actual, the sale of the company? How did that feel emotionally and transactionally and business wise? Like, what was that whole process like?
So I mentioned it dragged out 6 months or so, and that wasn't their fault or our fault. They were great. They're awesome entrepreneurs. David Martin, Mark Hargrove. We still stay in touch with them. They update us on things like that. But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of, when you're dealing with a company of that size, there's lawyers on both sides getting involved over very, very small details. And we also wanted to make sure that our internal team was taken care of. We took $500,000 from the deal and made sure that went to them, and that their jobs are secure and their bonus and raise programs are in place. And these are our VAs in the Philippines that ran Free Up. And so I think once we signed it, there was an element of relief. We had spent that 6 months trying to keep each other focused, my business partner and I, because we kind of were in the mentality that they could back out at any given time. And we didn't want to go back to a business that we had been neglected. So it was a good stress relief, but then also we had to inform our team, which was very emotional, and letting them know about it and telling them over and over that their jobs are secure and everything that goes with that. But it's been good. I mean, we've been checking in with them, checking in with the new owners. Everything's going well over there. And I mean, afterwards it was great. During it was pretty stressful.
Bro, that's, first of all, congratulations. I know that's the dream for many. And some people that have experienced that have experienced amazing things. And some people, unfortunately, on the flip side of an exit, especially depending on their life cycle and where they are in their life, it can actually be hard for them because they don't know what's next. Or it's almost like when you get a little bit older, once you retire, I've seen a lot of people that don't have something to look forward to when they retire, they start to actually age and die pretty quickly. So did you have something in mind already as soon as that exit happened to where the next thing, or did you just take some time off to kind of recalibrate? Like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, we didn't know what was next. We like you said, we were kind of counting on it falling through and not actually happening, so that we would just stay focused on the business, just mentally. But I mean, we sold it in November. So that left us November, December. We got to spend time with family, take a much needed break and relax. And then come January, the first conversation were, hey, are we sick of each other to me and my business partner? Do we still want to work together? Like, what's next? And luckily he wasn't sick of me and vice versa. And then from there, it became, all right, what do we want to do? And we didn't want to jump into anything. So we started reading books and doing research on real estate investing and angel investing and talking about different business ideas and talking to other entrepreneurs, seeing what businesses they were working on and if we wanted to get involved in any of them. And people started reaching out to us and asking them if we could teach them our systems and our processes for hiring. And that's kind of when the idea of outsource school came up. And like I said, we went in with the mentality, hey, we'll spend 30, 60 days on this. We'll launch it. We'll see how the launch goes. If it goes great, we can spend more time on it. If it doesn't, we'll move on to the next thing. And luckily it went well and we went forward with it.
Hell yeah, brother. And so my question, just for the fun side of it, what'd you do with the millions that you exited with? Did you go do something you could, as a kid, you always wanted to do? Did you do something fun and cool, like travel baseball stadiums? Like, what'd you do?
So I booked a lot of travel plans that all got canceled because of COVID. Because remember, we sold it at the end of 2019. So yes. We took a few trips between January and April, but there's only so much you can do there. And I bought this house now in Colorado. I ended up moving from Florida to Colorado, kept the Florida place, turned that into a real estate investment. And,
beautiful.
Like I kind of said before, I'm definitely not a flashy person. I stay away from just spending money for no reason. I'm a big proponent of investing in stocks and real estate and business.
Making my heart happy right now.
Yeah. So I definitely wasn't trying to blow it. I look at a house as a good investment from a mental and life perspective and all of that. But no Teslas or anything like that.
No, not yet. But you know what? It's beautiful because quality of life is everything, man. And once you have that safety net, if you have some money in the bank and some peace of mind, you can really operate differently in the world. And you can serve better. You can show up better in relationships and business and with your teams and with everybody that matters in your life. And so now after that exit of Free Up, right? And it was kind of perfect timing and serendipitous where you kind of took advantage of the market. We were at an all-time high. We were overdue for a correction already before the pandemic. And so, the fates would have it. And, to your chagrin, it's kind of tongue in cheek. You weren't able to travel as much, but you got out at the perfect time. And so, yeah. and so now what do the business operations look like today after Free Up?
I mean, we have outsourced school, again, starting a business that is scalable and sellable, that runs without us. We have an awesome team. We've got marketing agencies that handle it. I've kind of toned back on the amount of podcasts and appearances that I'm doing and kind of valuing my time there. But yeah, I mean, we have the structure in place. We have the team in place. We've got 600 plus members. Obviously it's all digital, so there's not very much overhead and costs, and it stays very lean the way we like it. And so we have that running. We have our software that we're starting to market now that we've kind of used outsource school to get those members using it and bug tested and all the stuff that goes with that. And then spending the remaining of our time on HG Ventures, looking at other companies coming in from a strategic standpoint where we're not on the organization chart. We're not taking client phone calls or anything like that, coming in on a high level using our expertise there. So that's kind of the trifold, but it's a much more chill lifestyle with Free Up. You've got thousands of freelancers, thousands of clients. You've got your internal team, and there's just lots of moving parts, lots of people contacting it at all different times, and it's 24/7. This is it's a lot more chill business environment and life environment right now.
Beautiful, brother. I'm so happy for you and proud of you. And even though we just met, like I want you to win and keep enjoying life. And so when you're not working and you're not doing, physical, mental wellness kind of stuff, who are the people that are keeping you going? Do you have mentors directly or indirectly? Are there, thought leaders, podcasters that you're into? What kind of stuff are you into to kind of expand different parts of your world?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge networker. It's something that I did for the past 4 years at Free Up. Like even someone like Zion Kim, who I'm not sure if you know of in the space. I was just on a call with him. Like he's where I want to be in 5 years, where he has a portfolio of companies. He's coming in at a strategic level. Roland Frazier and his Epic program. So I try to connect with entrepreneurs and stay in touch with entrepreneurs that are where I want to be, that are doing the types of projects that I want to be. So if I'm not trying to get into real estate, I'm not going to spend 8 hours a week talking to people in real estate along those lines. And also just my family. And actually, my entire family is moving to Colorado, which I'm excited about because for the past 5 years, my sister's been in Seattle. I've been in Florida. My parents have been in Massachusetts. So we've just been on completely opposite parts of the US, and I'm excited to have them. And I mean, my dad taught me everything about finances and keeping a safety net and investing at a young age and not blowing money. And my parents were both teachers, like I mentioned. So, I mean, they've been role models to me.
I was going to say, for people, that's not, so one of the biggest, so A, congratulations, and what a life experience for your family coming together. And then B, for your dad to have the intuition, the ability, the acumen to be able to give you those tools. Everything that I see from a wealth manager standpoint is people just don't have the right information, and all the information's out there. You just got to either A, know where to get it, or actually execute on getting it. And then it takes experience to do certain things, but there are principles. Spend less than you make, invest, diversify your investments, all these different things. I know he's a teacher. What kind of teacher was he? And where did that financial acumen come from?
Yeah, so he was a physics teacher at a high school, and he was able to retire, and he retired 8 years ago. And he's now just been traveling the world with my mom up until COVID. So and they were able to just save. And if you think of like the investment strategy where like Grant Cardone's on one end, where he's like, take out as much debt as you can, like invest in everything. And then you've got like the average, like the poor dad from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, who like won't invest in anything, who's like spending money there. My parents are probably somewhere in the middle, where my dad is anti-debt, more like Dave Ramsey. Like, I don't have any debt, like pay your credit cards off. Don't spend more than you can.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit more conservative than me on the investing, although I'm definitely not super aggressive conservative, but all the things, just teaching you like what an investment account is, what a credit card is, how to balance a checkbook, how to like save. And hey, when I had all these jobs growing up, to not just take the money and go run to the mall and spend it, but keep it in that savings account. I think those are lessons that help you not just in life and in business. And even when we go to invest in companies now, we look not just at the business, but the entrepreneur, because if the entrepreneur can't handle their own finances, chances are they're not gonna be able to handle the business's finances too. So I think it all comes together.
Perfectly said, brother. You are a shining light of what someone can do when they put their head down and charge forward, but also enjoy life. And that's kind of the beautiful balance of doing life and doing it well, with the things that make you happy, the things that help you fulfill those things. It's the quality of life, and letting your business be a lifestyle business in a sense. So thank you so much for sharing that, your journey, your story, your mission. He's the amazing, the mighty, the powerful Nathan Hirsch. I'm Jesse T. Be sure to catch us on next week's episode of The Jesse T Show.